Evening, everybody. A very, very good evening to you. I'm Rashid Ogunloru, author of Soul Trader, and I have got a feeling that at the moment you may not be able to see me, which is such a shame because I'm here in all of my glory. Welcome to the very, very first Soul Trader live webinar. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm hoping we might have some pictures soon. And in fact, in the meantime, whilst we haven't got a picture of me, let's see if we can give you a picture of something that you can enjoy in the meantime. So let's see if we can put up a picture for you. But I'm so glad that you're here, and welcome to this hangout, which is all about building your dreams in 2015. I suspect that there's going to be all sorts of reasons why you may be here. You might be somebody who is starting a business. You may have been your own boss for some time. It might well be the case that you're kind of dipping between business. I was just running my Soul Trader workshop today at the British Library, and some people were kind of in transition. You know, they were kind of partly in business, partly working part-time. So there's all sorts of different scenarios here. Or maybe it's just that one day you actually dream of being your own business. There's so many different kind of scenarios, so many different kind of circumstances that may well apply to you. But whatever the circumstances are, I'm really glad that you're here. And actually, I just want to see if I can give you a little bit of an image in the meantime. So at least you should be able to see. Can you see a nice Soul Trader image at the moment in the meantime? Anyway, I hope that you can. But good to see you. I'm really, really, really glad that you're here. Shortly, in a while, a contact of mine, Simon Poole, who's one of the people who's featured in the Soul Trader book, will be joining us. But I want to walk through a few things in terms of your goals and your dreams. So here we are. 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks into the first year, into a new year rather, 2015, and there might be all sorts of hopes, dreams, aspirations that you've got for yourself, for your business. And let me also just say, for those of you who it's the case whereby you might be thinking, well, I'm not running a business, but I'm actually here because I'm thinking about what I want to do next in my career. Most of the things that I say and share during the next 50 minutes, hour or so, absolutely do apply. If you're watching on the, just a few housekeeping rules, if you're watching on the soultrader.biz website, the webinars page, you can see that there is a small box there, which is the video, which you can see. If you go to the bottom right-hand corner, you should be able to extend that if you want to see that full screen, or at the moment, because we're just on audio, it might be absolutely fine how it is that we are. So I hope that you can hear me nicely and that you're enjoying the webinar so far. If you've got a question at any point throughout this webinar, you can actually post it to me. So this will be interactive, hopefully. All you need to do is that if you are on the webinar page, if you just scroll down just a little bit, it will say, you know, click here, watch above for the video, and it will also tell you that if you've got a question, if you want to post a question, you can just follow the link to our Facebook page. So follow the link to the Facebook page, like it, and post a question there. I'll be checking those questions there from time to time, and I'll pick up on a few of your questions. If there's no questions, I'll also pick up on a question or two that I've been given earlier on before we started here. So I'm so glad that you're here. Right, let's get started then. I mean, one of the things that's really interesting, isn't it? This whole thing about goal setting is extraordinary, because some people are really passionate about it. They love it. They set goals. Organizations set goals, don't they? They've got their 1-year plan, more often their 5-year plan or their 3-year plan. When it comes to our own lives, maybe we set resolutions and so on. But there's all sorts of reasons why these things often come unstuck. If you think about it, at the start of every year, there's a Happy New Year. People have got all sorts of wishes for what they're wanting in the year. But very often, even by now, those kind of things have fallen unstuck. And I want to talk briefly about that before we get into the meat of where you are and what you're wanting from 2015. One of the reasons why lots of people become unstuck in their personal, their professional goals is this. Well, one, they're not holistic enough. In other words, have you looked at your whole life, or all of your life and your business, or your life and your career and your relationships, not just one aspect of getting fit or what have you? That's one thing. So often we're not holistic enough. So we haven't thought about our whole life. So when we're just thinking about an abstract, okay, I'm going to give up red meat, or I'm going to give up beer or whatever, I'm going to give up cigarettes, or I'm going to want to be more like this or that. you're not taking on board the whole of your life. It's far more motivating when you're looking at your whole life. So we need to look holistically at everything that's important to you in your life, your career, and your business. Also, even if you were just to set goals just purely for your business, your business is just one element of your life. So actually, if you're not looking at your entire life, then we're kind of missing a trick here. So that's also very important, really. We need to really ensure that we look at life, business, and career. So that's a bit about holistic. Often, also, we're not strategic enough. We're just not strategic enough. So we haven't thought about, actually, where am I now in my life? What's really important to me? Okay, what's important to me in my business? Where is my business at? What's working? What's not working? Okay, we haven't got enough customers. We're not making enough in terms of profit. I haven't really got a really clear game plan. I'm disorganized when it comes to this or when it comes to that. Often we just are not strategic. What are the steps that we need to put in place? What are the support that we need to put in place? Imagine if for a moment I were an athlete and I want to be, I'm a budding athlete and I want to be world champion 400-meter runner. That's all very well, and I could want to do well. I could even enter races, but if I haven't put all the plans in place for my training, for my races, which races I'm going to put myself down for, if I haven't got the team, if I haven't got the support, if I'm not reviewing my progress, then I'm not really going to get very far. And that ties in nicely with the third element, which is often that we're not realistic enough. So when I mean realistic, okay, what is the goal? Is it doable? Is it doable in the time that you set out to do it? Is it really doable and realistic that you're going to lose a stone in a week? Is it really realistic that you're going to be earning £500,000 by the end of last year, by the end of next year rather, when this year the business has just turned over £30,000 or whatever? And in fact, what's interesting about realistic is often what is the work that's going to be involved in order to achieve that. So I often, when I'm running my Soul Trader workshop, I liken this to, you've got to know how big the dream is that you dream. How big is the dream that you dream? And I talk about this in the Soul Trader book. If you're wanting to just climb small hills, then you might be able to do them in your trainers, how you are without any training or whatever. You might be able to go there and you'll be fine. But if you're climbing a bigger mountain, then you might need very special boots, you might need a rucksack, you might need far more food and water, you might be up there for a long time, the temperature might change, all sorts of things. You might need training, you might need all sorts of resources. And then when it comes to mountains, it's a whole different thing, isn't it? Then you're going to need all sorts of the gear, the ropes, you're going to need the training, you're going to need to know the terrain, etc. It's exactly the same with you and your life and your career and your business. So that's the first thing about, we need to be setting goals that are holistic, strategic and realistic, and also that really resonate with you. What is really dear to your heart? The more you are aligned to your goals, the more that they really are coming from your core and what you're just so passionate about, the more it is that you're likely to pursue them. Again, today I was running the Soul Trader workshop. I do a simple exercise. You might have seen it if you've got the Soul Trader book, and I get people to write what my passion is. Okay, my passion is this, helping people, fixing things, sorting out IT, whatever it is. What is it, the things that you're absolutely passionate about? And I think that's the first thing I want you to think about right now here on this webinar. What are the things that you're absolutely passionate about? Write it down or let it come to mind in life and in your career, in your business. So if you're in a career and you're thinking about starting up your business, do this, or if you're in business already, what's you really passionate about in life and in your business or career? What are you really passionate about? If you're tuning into this and you aren't sure about the next steps, this thing about what you're really passionate is absolutely key, because you might be thinking, okay, I'm not really sure what the next step is and what I'm wanting to do. Follow your passion. What are your skills? What are your passions? Sit with that. That might be all you want or all you need from this webinar. What are your skills? What are your passions? And if you're really not sure about where it is that you're going or what that step is, I would really highly recommend the Soul Trader book, because there's lots of exercises, or come along to the Soul Trader webinar that will help you in that regard. Or in fact, check out all the resources on soultrader.biz. There's lots of stuff here that will kind of help you consider that. So sit with that. Let it bubble up. What is it that I'm really passionate about? And what are my skills and what are my talents? Because that's really important. The magic happens when you're following your skills and your talents. So let's assume pretty much for most of the rest of this, you know what your skills and your passions and your talents are. and maybe that you're in business or you're starting out in business or that you've been in business for some time. But we've still got this dilemma here of, okay, how am I going to make this work? How am I really going to get this to work? So we really need to begin to explore some of the specifics about what is going to make it work. I think there's something really important here that needs to be said up front, and that is that there are absolutely no guarantees to success. And that's incredibly important. If you ever have the pleasure of speaking to lots of successful business owners, lots of successful entrepreneurs, and you hear them talk, what you'll often hear them say is that they tried several businesses or they run several businesses, and often they might introduce new products. Some of them work and some of them don't work. Even if you look at some of the biggest businesses, some things will work, some products won't work. You know, even if you take some really, really, really big companies, Google, Facebook, and so on, some things may well work and some things don't work. That is the nature of life, and it's the nature of business too. So it's important not to be downhearted, or to what can happen a lot of the time is that we say to ourselves, well, I'm only going to give this a go if I'm kind of guaranteed that success is going to come out as a result of it. That's a very risky strategy. Success may come, it may go. And again, I always like to refer to this a little bit like in the sporting context, because again, when it comes to success in terms of sport, yes, you'll put in your training, you'll get the right team together, and you'll play as best as you can. Some games you're going to win, some games you're going to lose. That is the nature of life. And in fact, it's often the games that we lose, the times that we lose, or we so-called fail, whatever that means, or that we have setbacks, that's often where the most learning is. And again, the more you speak to successful or accomplished entrepreneurs, they'll tell you that that's part of it. And in fact, they'll often say there's that classic adage, there's no failure, there's only feedback. So really get into the habit of just seeing everything as learning. Everything is learning. I think that is so important. One of the things that is really key to your success is that you being on board, you being really on your own side, you really trusting yourself. So what we've been talking about so far is what is it you're passionate about, what are your skills set, what is really in your heart, and to become mindful that success is dependent on lots of things. So really, and I say this many times, you hear me say this many times throughout the Soul Trader journey, there's two things, there's success and there's fulfillment. And most people want success and they want fulfillment. They want a successful career. They want to become the manager, a senior manager, or to do this or to do that. And again, in business, they want to succeed. They want to make this amount of money. They want to reach this number of people. They want to change the industry in this particular kind of way, whatever success means to you. And actually, whilst you're listening to this, it's actually worth thinking, what does success actually mean to you? But success actually depends on all sorts of factors. You, your talents, your abilities, your skills, your resources, your resourcefulness, the people who it is that you can tap into, your product, your service, how good it is, how good your marketing is, how much you reach out, your dexterity, all sorts of factors, not just these internal factors. There's going to be all sorts of external factors, aren't there? There's going to be the economy, there's going to be the competition, there's going to be about what customers want, where they're at, what's going on in the marketplace, and so on, because you might even have the best product, but the marketplace is changing. Take an industry like the music industry, it's changed several times. The format's changed many times during my lifetime, from LPs to CDs to tapes, to some very short-lived formats, mini discs, and so on. Then the industry had to contend with people beginning to download, or other, businesses like Napster set up, changing the business model. Some of those stayed, some of them vanished. And now with streaming, the industry is constantly changing. So you may well be an industry that's constantly changing. So one of the things that's really key to success is that beginning to understand what is the nature of your industry. So you've got to be very mindful of who you are, what your skills and your talents are. You've got to be very mindful about what your product is and what your service is. And you've got to become very mindful about the marketplace. Who are your customers? What do they want? What's going on for them? What technology are they using? And so on. What is it they actually want, and what are your competitors doing, what it is that they're wanting. So for example, I've been in business for 10 years. My business has completely changed along the way. So those are just some of the things for us to be mindful of as we zoom deeper into this particular journey. I see a number of more people are joining us as we're listening to this. So what we've talked about so far is that we've talked about the fact that at the beginning of the year we often set lots of goals and resolutions, often that we've completely fallen away from them within a few weeks, and that's often because we're not holistic enough, we're not thinking about our whole life, we're often not strategic enough. Okay, what are the steps I need to take and the support I need to put in place? And often we're not realistic enough. Am I prepared to put in the effort? Is the time frame right? What's actually going to be involved in that journey? Am I prepared to put in the work? Very often on that particular note, when I'm speaking to lots of entrepreneurs and they're thinking about moving ahead in their business, or they're starting a business, I'll actually ask them, what's actually going to actually be involved in this? Are you prepared to take all the steps? Are you prepared to do the research? Are you prepared to put in those extra hours? Are you prepared to survey your customers and so on? Be mindful of all of these different elements. They're all part of it, and that's why the thing that we were talking about before about finding out what you're passionate about is so important, because the passion is going to be your fuel throughout this journey. If you're doing something that you so love, that you're so passionate about, you are going to stay on course. Right, let's talk a little bit about actually your dreams and your goals in 2015. One of the things I want to invite you to do during this webinar is, if you've got a piece of paper, I invite you to grab it, and I want you to think about perhaps one goal that you want for your life, so maybe for your personal life, your home life. So I want you to think about that. What's one goal for yourself in 2015 that you would like for your home life? For you, it might be, okay, you know what, it's about moving house, or you might think, okay, it's about redecorating the house, or converting that loft, something that you've always dreamed of doing, or it might be something that's far more personal to you in terms of about your own health or well-being. So think about a goal there. So something for you in terms of your personal life. So what's a goal perhaps for your personal or your home life? I want you to think about also what could be a goal for you that you're wanting to achieve in terms of your business. So what's something that's really important to your business? Now, when it comes to your business, or when it comes to your career, I want you to think about what's something that would make a big, significant impact for you. So those of you who are already in business, who've been in business for some time, what's interesting here is that actually in the day-to-day stuff of business, there's so much stuff to do that actually it might be good just focusing on one thing. Actually, this year it is about building an online store for your for the jewelry that it is that you make. It might be about, okay, it's about getting the online store. It might be, okay, I've been thinking for a long time about getting part-time admin help. It might be about that. It might be, you know what, we've been for a long period of time, we have this and this type of customer, but we want one large regular customer on a retainer who we can do X and Y work with. So I want you to think about what's the one thing that would make a big difference to you in your business. What's one thing that would be really significant? And let's try and be really, really specific about this. So that's that. So you've been thinking about what's a personal goal, what is in your home life, and what's the goal in terms of your business. And I also want you to think about, and this crosses over with your home life, what's the goal that you want this year for your relationships? So perhaps people in your life. Again, when you're running a business, it's all very interesting. You're out there conquering the world, but all of a sudden we forgot our friends, our family, our loved ones as well. You know, and it's interesting. I want to bring in a question here that whilst you're beginning to think about that and considering that Yasan, the astrologer, Yasan, I think you may well be listening here, tuning in at the moment, and you asked a beautiful question, which is here on the Facebook page, which is bridging the gap. You talk about how is it that you bridge the gap between your dreams, these big dreams that you might have, and the mundane world, and then what's the first step? So I think that let's bring this in here right now. What's your track record with your goals and your dreams and your aspirations? Have you been somebody who set goals for yourself and you're very successful with them? Or are you somebody who tends to be not so successful with them? Aha, here's my very, very good friend, Simon Paul Sutton. Can you hear me, Simon? Are you just having some tweet? I'm going to leave you there to eat for a while. Join us when you're ready. But where we're at, and I'm just going to share this with you, is that we've been talking a little bit about goals. I've been inviting everyone to perhaps think about one goal that they might want to set for their life overall, one goal perhaps that they might want in terms of for their business, or their career. What's one goal for you in terms of your career, and what's one goal for you in terms of your relationships? And I've just brought into play, what's your track record with goals? Are you good at goal setting? Does that work for you? Some people are far more fluid. You just work far more fluidly. You're far more spontaneous. Then it's important to trust that. I would say that if you're somebody who's not got a good track record with goals, and this is bringing in your Sands question, is how do you bridge the gap between these big dreams and the mundane world? Maybe to set something that you know is really manageable for you. So instead of bringing in 10 new clients this year, you know what? It's going to be about bringing in 3. So what is realistic for you? It's about starting off with races that you know that you can win. You're not necessarily going to put somebody into, if we're footballers, we're not going to necessarily put somebody. They may have budding talent. We're not necessarily going to put them in the first team. We might put them in second team, in the third team. So what is a realistic goal for you? But also at the same time, I'm mindful that you might well be listening to this and you might be thinking, you know what? Goals don't really resonate with me. I find them a little bit constricting. And the thing I want to say here about goals is that you've got to know with goals, sometimes it is a time to hold on to goals, set goals. Sometimes it's a case of letting go of goals. So you've got to know when to set them, when to let go, or when it is about tweaking them. They're just a guide here. So have you got that goal of what you're wanting in your life? Try and be as specific, okay? I'm wanting my home life goal is I'm wanting to clear out the garage by the end of June. So be as specific as you can. Clear the garage by the end of June and move in the pool table, the sofas and so on. That's a nice home goal. Done. Nicely done. Again, let's move into your career goal or your business goal. Let's be as specific as about it. Okay, I'm wanting to change job. What's a realistic time frame? Okay, I'm really wanting to change job and either become a manager in this particular field because I'm a junior manager at the moment by December. That's realistic. What is that specific goal there? And again, in your relationships, be as specific as you can. Okay, I currently see the family once every 3 weeks. I want to see them once every 2 weeks. It's nice and it's very, very specific and it's manageable. And again, if you're wanting more of the specifics about some of this goal setting, there's more of that in Soul Trader. But let's explore more about this. And I know Simon's about to join us very, 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 very shortly. And I'm curious, Simon, what you've been eating there. Simon, let me quickly introduce Simon, who I think might be on. He's just come off mute. So Simon Paul Sutton is a very, very good friend of mine. Some of you might know Simon from his Simon on the Sofa show. Simon, your background, quite a rich, colourful background. You run your online show, Simon on the Sofa. You've just run a retreat. You're really passionate about helping people find themselves and find truth. You're, to my mind, a real classic soul trader. Some people might recognise your name also. You're featured, I think, in the Conversations chapter of the Soul Trader book about authenticity. So Simon, I want to just kind of kick off just to ask you a question. What does a new year mean to you, and what does this whole thing about dreams mean to you? Goals and dreams. How do you feel at the start of a new year, and how does that resonate with you?
Okay. Welcome. Okay, I couldn't see your video, just to say. Was I supposed to?
No, you're supposed to, but I'm invisible today. It's a shame people can't see my pictures. All of a sudden, my video's gone. So the great thing is that people can see you, Simon. So
can they see me?
They can see you. Yeah, I can see you.
Oh, okay. You can see me. Okay, lovely. So, okay, super, beautiful. Nice to be here. Hello, everybody, for tuning in live and coming to listen to the wonderful Rashid Ogunlaru, and yeah, that's a beautiful, spontaneous moment, actually, as it normally is with me and Rashid. I wasn't planning on being here, so he's just jumped me in at the deep end, and it's lovely to just touch base with you all. And I've been called a soul trader. So this is a new accolade for me in this moment. I'm a soul trader. I like the name soul trader as well. So dreams, yeah, what a great question. Dreams. As you were speaking and I was listening to you, I was thinking, well, ultimately we're always dreaming, and we're dreaming for more. You know, the dreams normally mean we need more. We want more, and I always like to really first and foremost come back and sort of just go, wow, like we already are a dream. It's like, you know, it's like we are already a dream. It's just, it lights me up as I even say it. It's like we've been dreamed into existence, and everything that's led us to where we are today is because of our thinking and our dreaming of what it is that we want to be. And if we're not happy with that, then it's only because ultimately you're viewing yourself and your gift of life in a very, you could say, not very aware, maybe not so beneficial to how you're viewing yourself, because you're potentially looking at what you don't have, and then dreaming from that place, rather than looking at what you do have and then being from that place. So it's
Right. Simon, this is really interesting, isn't it? So you're saying that, you know, it's interesting with this whole thing about dreams, isn't it? And that we're often focusing on what we don't have and dreaming, you know, not recognizing what it is that we already have. And I think there's something really, really powerful about that, isn't it? There's something that I'm so glad that you're here, because you bring into play this really important point. And I seem to be back here visually, folks, slightly muffled, or I think I may have vanished again. I can see myself. Not sure if you can see me. I was there for.
I can see you now. So it's not. But it looks like you're coming through this beautiful haze. So it's lovely.
We'll have to. Well, that ties in with the dream thing, isn't it? So
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Right. So here we are. Are we when we're dreaming? Are we really aware of who we already are, what we've already got, the magic it is that we already possess? Are we really aware of what our skills and our talents and our magic is? Are we really already grateful for the things that we already have in life? And you know, Simon, just today I was sharing with the viewers, with the listeners, I was running my Soul Trader workshop at the British Library, and I do the exercise that's in the Clarity chapter of the Soul Trader book about what's important to you in life, what's important to you in your business or in your career, what's relationships. And I think that, again, if you're watching this, I'll invite you to think about what are the things you've already got in place, what's already working for you in life, what is already there, because it might well be that you haven't given yourself credit for what's already in place, and you might be hankering after stuff, not really fully appreciating the magic that is there. Because also, Simon, I think there's something also interesting that you're saying here also, which is that all that time which you're in the dreaming space, there can be a big gap between you and therefore your dreams and your reality. And that ties with Yasan asked a brilliant question. Yasan's an astrologer, and she's saying, you know, sometimes there seems to be a big gap between your dreams, which seem to be up there, here, and the reality, which is here. And how do you bridge that gap? And I think one of the things I want to say here is that, first of all, you've got to be in body. Who am I? Appreciate what I am, to be really grateful for what it is that we have, because that means that we're already reaching we're already fully embodied ourselves, right?
I mean, definitely. I mean, it's that shift in. It's not just a perception or a concept. It's this real shift that you are a magnificent, grand creator of your reality already, even if you don't like the reality that you're dreaming into existence. See, this is the key, is that, you know, yes, there's even multiple ways of dreaming. You know, if you want to go into the dream state and you want to explore lucid dreaming, you want to explore, other altered states of being. But if we just bring it back to here in the human form, we are here, we're getting up each day, we're planning our stuff, you know, like you said, relationships, work, earning money, etc., etc. One of the questions that I always invite people on my workshops, retreats, etc., is, you know, what is your wildest dream? Not what is your limited scarcity perspective of what it is that you think you should be. So for example, I think I should have £100,000 in the bank. I should have a new car. I should have a new house. I should be this big businessman. It's got 10 businesses. It's like, what's your wildest dream? I mean, I want people to connect to that inner authentic child, that dream that when you were younger, like connect to that, and then really connecting to what is possible from the place of who you are as an individual. So, for example, if my wildest dream is that I want to be this, amazing acro yogi, for example, right? And I want to tour around the world and share acro yoga, just for an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm physically overweight and I can't even I'm quite lethargic and tired, and maybe I've got a slight disease or disability of some kind. That doesn't mean that I'm not ever going to be able to do it, but it means that first and foremost, I need to dream these other things into place. And that might be like, I need to dream myself out of bed in the morning. Do you know what I mean?
Let me ask you a question about this then, Simon, because I love what you're saying, and let's zoom in, because the other dimension of this is, okay, your goals in 2015, and what strikes me, tying in both the thing you talk about, your wildest dreams, and then, okay, what's then doable? Because I want to be this acro yogi kind of thing, but at the moment I'm nowhere near that. Maybe I need to come up with something more realistic. But Simon, lots of people who are watching this may not know that much about your background, and you've come from a background, and it's, you talk about it a lot of the time in your on the Simon on the sofa. From your early background, from growing up, you got involved when you were a teenager in things like shoplifting, etc. You then completely changed then you got involved in all sorts of stuff, burglary and so on. Then you completely changed your life. You then, I remember there's a moment where you talked about, you were then at home, you were watching a soap, you're watching somebody acting, you thought, I could do better than that. Simon, here's an example of somebody who's got a dream, and there's a big gap between you and your background before then, and you deciding I want to be an actor.
Right.
A little bit, then as it happened, then your acting journey took over. You made a big budget movie, a number of other smaller movies and so on. You made that a reality. So yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about, in your life, how have you made that? How have you jumped that gap between your dreams and your aspirations and making them a reality? And can you tell us a little bit about, at that point, and maybe what the steps that you are now? So for you practically, how have you made those dreams a reality?
Yeah, okay, great. So let's dive into that. Okay, so first thing that's arising as you're speaking is that a dream is a continual process. There's nowhere to get to, right? So this idea of bridging the gap, again, like when I decided to become an actor, and I was in the world of crime, smoking marijuana and in circles of dysfunction and trapped by fear, and didn't understand what positive thinking was, or affirmations, or ways of I didn't read books necessarily at that stage of how I was going to progress. I just had a vision, had an idea, and that idea drove me. That gave me incentive and direction out of the world of crime that I was in. Had I not had a bigger vision to focus on, which you're going to call the dream, if I didn't have the dream of becoming an actor and thinking of an actor as in like this image of the A-list actor, James Bond or whatever, somebody, some visual image to focus towards, I wouldn't have done all the other baby steps in order to get there. But what I want to point to, maybe to the viewers, is that we think that the dream is at the end destination. So that when I become the professional, lead actor in a budget movie, oh, that's going to be my dream. Whereas actually, the first time I got into theatre school, that was part of the dream. Then when I first got my first play and took it to Edinburgh Festival, that was the dream. Then when I got to my first agent, that was the dream. Then my second agent, third agent, fourth agent, fifth agent, sixth agent. Then my role on a small independent, bank theatre show, where I didn't really know what was going on, and I was going down to meet up with people, and then the small TV production, or the little advert where you're just in it for like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and all of these points you're thinking along the way, is this my dream? Is this the dream? But then when you actually look back and realize all of it was the dream manifesting itself into reality through your dominating thoughts. So for me, that's what I mean by now. I'm like, because of the power of dreaming and the power that I know that thoughts create your reality, I now know that my dream of being an actor, 7 years ago, drifted into a completely different dream, which is now being a lead actor in the real life movie and making a difference towards the real suffering and pain in the world, and the poverty and the deprivation and the fear that we live in, and the 80% of people out of work, or the 80% living in jobs and working in relationships that they don't like, You know, I'm now focusing in that as part of, like, wow, I can manipulate, not manipulate, but I can have a contribution and impact on the real life movie. It's
Right.
like, you know, so anyway, that's a little sample of the process that I went through, because then I started to realize the dream of becoming an actor and being a professional actor and being in that world, which you know is a great story to want to project and create.
Hmm.
You get to a point where you start to go, well, if I'm actually the one in control of my reality, is this really what I want to dream into reality?
Right. Let me pause you there because you said so many magical things there. You know, there's so many powerful things there. And these are just the things that I picked up. There's the thing about embodying what it is that you're actually about. That's what I got a very strong sense of. There's this thing about just being it. You know, because you're pointing to that sometimes can be a gap between you and your dreams, and then there's also this point that you beautifully make about how it can be a continuum, because you get to one stage, you know, you decide first of all you want to be an actor, you go an acting course, and then you decide this, and you do fringe theatre, then it's about doing something here, and then it's about a feature. So it's constantly moving, and also you get an opportunity in that to find out, actually, is this is it a dream or is it actually a nightmare? Because that's the other thing I want to bring into this in terms about dreams as a coach, and I think you also beautifully point to it. And for anyone who's listening to this, you know, at this time of the year, there's such a focus that you should know what your goals are. You should be clear about where you're wanting to be now in your career, where you want it to be in your life and your well-being. It might well be for you that actually everything is fine, thank you very much. I don't need to set goals. I don't need to set resolutions. I go with the flow, and that works for you. If that's the case, then absolutely trust that, work with that, and let that be. It's interesting, Simon, how you. I get a sense from when you were talking that from the moment that you decided to be an actor, it's almost as though there was a chain of events that happened. What I picked up from you is almost you so embodied it that then all sorts of, it was almost a momentum. You couldn't help but stop yourself but doing those things. And again, when you talk briefly about the stuff that you're doing, and then there was all this energy, it's almost as though there's a momentum, you know. And just before, you know, I get you to share your thoughts on that. That's certainly been the case in my career. And what I'm wanting to do here is just to throw a different angle on goals and dreams. All the different times in my life where I've wanted to do something, be it moving from media to being a singer and performer, I've had this sense, okay, this is what I want to do. Tying with your thought about the wildest dreams, okay, I want to be a singer and performer. I'm going to go and get myself some business cards which say Rashid Ogunlaru, singer, songwriter, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to do it, which means I need to learn a little bit about this, or when I decide I was going to become a coach, okay, I need to read this, I need to train here. Sometimes when I think that when you're really passionate about something, there's a course of events, there's almost this momentum that happens, and when you're not passionate about something, there's not that momentum that comes with it. Has that been was that your experience then, Simon? And when you then moved on to the work that you do now, was there almost this sense of momentum that was just you were flowing with life, and this stuff was just happening for you?
Was I flowing with life? I don't know. I think along the way, maybe, like in hindsight, maybe I was flowing with life. But I mean, definitely along my acting career, you know, you're never doing enough as an actor. You know, you want to be a lead actor, you want to be starring in big budget movies, you want to be A-list, you want to be winning a BAFTA and an Oscar and so on. So you're never really doing enough. The question is what you beautifully described is, are you willing to become the person it takes to achieve what you want to achieve? I will repeat that. Are you willing to become the person it takes to achieve what you want to achieve? So
I love that, Simon. I love that, what you said there. And I'm so glad you said it twice. Are you prepared to become the person that it takes to achieve what you're wanting to achieve?
yeah.
I think there's something very powerful here, because with anything that you're wanting, you know, with all this wishing, wanting, and all the rest of it, does it really chime with you? Are you prepared to put in that work?
Right.
Are you prepared for, and both sides, you know, if you speak to lots of actors, successful athletes and so on. I heard a while ago, I think the cyclist Bradley Wiggins, after I think he won another gold medal, and he was talking about the fact that, yeah, he'd done all this stuff, but actually his family life had actually suffered.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it actually going to take? What is that impact going to be? And of course, Simon, I guess what's interesting is you don't know what some of that stuff is going to involve. When I wanted to be a successful singer, I wanted to be a successful. I'm actually glad in a way it didn't happen. But what is actually involved in it? Because you might see that it's about this or singing or whatever. Maybe a lot of the time you're being traveling from here to there. What are all the bits? There might be lots of things involved in that you don't like.
Right, right, and that you're gonna have to adapt to. You know, the key is you're gonna have to. People, what it is in life, and with anybody out there, this is Soul Trader, right? This is about us coming together and being a soul trader, coming from the heart, communicating from your heart. This is about rewriting what business is really about. This is about really communicating how you want to express yourself, and then bring that into the world through your business, in this experience with Rashid Ogunlaru or whatever that shows up. But we're rewriting new stories right now. So the thing about becoming the person you need to be means that, are you ready to step into what that is required? So it might mean that you've got to change friend circles. It might mean that you've got to speak out where you didn't think you was going to have to speak out. It might mean that you have to get up for 6 weeks, 6 months in a row at early hours in the morning and do an extra hour run in the morning because that's what time you've got. It might mean that you've got to not sacrifice, but change. This is a key point here. Everyone goes, oh, well, I want to do what I want to do, but I don't want to sacrifice my weekends with my friends. It's like, that's fine. If you don't want to sacrifice that, then don't moan and say that you do want to do the other thing, because you clearly don't. If you did, you wouldn't see it as a sacrifice. You would just change.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So for me, it's like, are you ready to embrace change and stop running away from it? Because most people are living in fear, and fear is the ultimate lie and the ultimate saboteur that will hold us back from even accessing our dreams. And I want to say one thing before you speak to what I've just shared, Rashid, because I know I get passionate, but we are dreaming and using the power of our thoughts and the power of our ability to manifest. We are functioning from a very scarce, limited, fearful place. Most of our dreams, most people in the world who are dreaming are still dreaming from a conditioned, limited space. I want to listen, and I'm saying I'm in that place still, okay? And I'm a big dreamer. I'm working towards beautiful things daily. I get out of bed in the morning and have my practices. I live my life the way that I want to emanate, so that I'm a healing balm in this world to the best of my ability right now in this planet. But I know that I'm still functioning from old conditioning, scarcity mentality, society's social oppression, and and you've got to be fit. You've got to be fit to carve yourself through all of that.
Right, right. Beautifully put, beautifully put, because I think that sometimes and it's interesting, for me, it puts a different spin on Yusan's beautiful question about the gap between the mundane and the dreams. Sometimes the mundane, the beautiful mundane, is the dream. That is the magic. Being here, being grateful for life, being grateful for this magical thing, this gift of life. And sometimes the dream is the dreary. It's the idea. Maybe the dream itself sometimes can be the complete and utter nightmare. And maybe it's robbing you from being fully who it is that you are. Yusan also asks, what's the first step? The first step is just embracing, to my mind, it's embracing yourself fully. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what I'm so passionate about. Something in your own particular case, and I want to see if anyone, by the way, if you've got a question here, please do. If you're watching on the website, you'll see there's a note saying post on the Facebook page. Post if you've got a question before we close in about 15 minutes or so. Do post a question. But I think that we need to be very careful when it comes to dreams, and you put this very beautifully, that either what is it actually going to take if you are serious that you're wanting to be that chief executive, or you're wanting to run a chain of shops, what's that actually going to involve? And I go to lots of talks at the British Library because I'm one of their partner coaches, hearing lots of entrepreneurs, and I was at a talk recently, and somebody in the audience, Simon, was saying, this is what I'm experiencing, here are the problems I'm having at the moment, and the successful entrepreneur said, they're going to continue. You're going to continue to have to balance this. You're going to continue to have all sorts of different problems. It's a bit like, it reminds me a little bit like that thing about the difference between the rich and poor. they have different money problems. One person hasn't got any money, they're trying to get it. The other person's got lots of money, they're trying to hold on to it, or everyone wants a piece of it, or they don't know what to do with it, or they're overwhelmed, or all sorts of other things are being sacrificed from it.
Right.
But I love there's something about the everyday when you can just embrace it and where you can be grateful. I want to ask you another question about where you've moved to, because I get a feeling, Simon, that during the acting days, there was this goal of what you wanted to do, to be an actor, and of course you needed to do the training to learn the craft. Then you talked a little bit about the different types of films. Progressing that, you made then a big movie, and then along that journey, we won't have time to go into it, you felt that wasn't very true to you. You wanted to find your authentic self. I know what I know about you, and one of the things that I really love, and I think I touch on it about the book, then for you, the goal was more about being authentic than necessarily achieving something. It was about sharing from that particular space. Simon, tell me, what's your take on, and you maybe were touching on it before, is there still a side of you where you have goals, dreams and aspirations, and where you put things in place to achieve those things? Or is it far more about just on a day-to-day level, being from a place of what feels to you to be authentic in that time? Because I know that you've deliberately thrown out all sorts of things that don't resonate with you. You're talking about if friendships don't resonate, if this doesn't resonate with you. I know that from everything from what you ate and the kind of things you would say, you really looked at all the different things that felt true to you and looked at, are those things serving me? So I'm wondering, do you still on one level set goals, or do you work from a far more intuitive place, or do you blend them? What's your practical approach to the stuff that we've been talking about?
Yeah. So like you say, the goals, the dreams and aspirations and so on. I suppose there's this idea that you get to a certain place within yourself, or you can get to a certain place within yourself, where you know that your inner peace is not dependent on outside exterior experiences being perceived as good. And let me break that down for you. A lot of business, whatever it is, you're diving straight into a world of competition, of conflict, of challenges, of fears, and so on. And often we're not ready to, like you just beautifully said, we're not ready to realize that in the struggle, without struggle, there is no progress. So in the struggle is, you called it the mundane, if you want to call it the mundane. Like, nobody wants to struggle, right? Everybody thinks a dream is like this utopian vision that's all beautiful and everything happens exactly how you want it in your projected view of a positive outcome. But this is an expectation and a projection of an outcome. So this already is killing you embracing the moment. I mean, one of your favorite sayings is, are you embracing life or fighting life? And it's like, so, the point is for me, my daily practices are many. I mean, I might wake up in the morning and sit in silence for a while. Some might call that meditation. I might do yoga or go to the gym. I have a writing practice called Morning Pages, where I just unload all of my thoughts that are going on in my mind in the morning and just get them off the page. I write lists. I have visions of what I'd like to create. So for example, I have a vision of a new story of the people. I have a vision where there's centers of evolution around the world where people can go in there and expand their mind and reprogram their psyche so that they can educate themselves with their body, the heart's resonance, the interconnectedness of all beings, and really step into a more aligned with their, you call it the heart, and you could say aligned with their heart, but I would say aligned with the more interconnectedness of our species and not the separation. And I just say one thing before you jump in there. One thing is that I see business, all of our current society, on a big global scale. The system is failing because of our idea of competition and separation. So for me, yes, I have visions, but I get up and I just be in it and hope that what I'm working towards, that I'm serving something grander than myself. And I just want to say that acting and everything up until maybe 7 years ago was that I was serving everything about myself.
Beautifully put. So beautifully put, Simon. And I just think for people who are listening to this, I just want to kind of reflect back. So there's a blend between the stuff which is far more nourishing you. You talked about process like the morning pages where you just write, the reflection, the sitting in silence, which some people might call meditation, the stuff that would fuel the soul, exploring the stuff that is not just about serving you, as the stuff was before, but how can I actually be of service, as well as some of the more practical, mental, lists kind of side of stuff. And I love the point that you made at the end about then how is it that we can work kind of collaboratively. And I just want to pick up on a couple of points before bringing you back in, which I so loved all the stuff that you said. One of the questions is, okay, how do you start? I think on a practical level, it might be actually, well, where am I actually at? What are the things that I actually have in relation to my goal, and what are the things that I need? And then picking up on Simon's point, and I think this is really important, in the Soul Trader chapter about cooperation. Who are the people who you know? So let's say you decide that you want to set up your own flower store. Who do you know who've set up their own business? Who do you know who's done anything to do with flowers? Connect with them, share with them from your heart what is that you're wanting to do. I think one of the other things that I get a sense of, Simon, that very often in today's world, often that there's so many people so separately pursuing stuff, or we're so caught up in our own world, despite all the connectivity, that we tend to go through all these struggles alone, and we don't often share with our network. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm wanting to do, and something very magical happens in that process. And today, for example, at the Soul Trader workshop, there are all sorts of different people there, all sorts of different backgrounds. And as you know, you've been to some of these events. I get people to talk and to share, and it's then for me, it's lovely to watch at the end how they're having conversations, they're exchanging cards, they've genuinely connected. And they're often, Simon, it's interesting. They're often not talking about business. They're just bonding. They're connecting, and then something very magical happens. Then they've got that bond, and they're genuinely seeing how it is that they can help each other. And I love that point when you said, "How is it that I'm actually able to be of service?" Can I just ask a quick question on that? How has that changed your life? Because there's an old paradigm of, okay, I set these goals, I do this, and okay, I might take on board some of the things that Rashid said about writing one goal here, doing this, and then maybe there's things about lists or the work I need to put in, or the training, all the other stuff we've touched on. But you're touching on another way of, where both are, of being, connecting. How is this way of being, where you've moved from goals which were purely selfish to ones where there's still your own aspirations, but there's a broader sense of the broader, in what way has that tangibly or emotionally or energetically enhanced your life? What is the difference between now and before?
Yeah, wonderful. And there's something I want to add to. You just said something beautiful. I just want to speak to that briefly, just for people listening. And I'm part of the Soul Trader community, as you know, and I'm taking the course that you've beautifully created. Even though I've been to your events before and you're a friend, it's the key is that I've been to events. I do online courses. I read beautiful books. I'm inspired by pioneering thinkers, philosophy, and so on. So, and I watch a lot of documentaries. So, I'm constantly feeding myself with the type of food, you could say, that inspires me to know that I am, in my actions, part of a universal collaboration. So I want to speak about that for a moment, because I still do a lot of stuff on my own. And I know that a lot of people do a lot of stuff on their own, because we're still caught in the transition. Some call this the noosphere, but we're still caught in that transition from the single self, it's me against the world, more for me is less for you. I'm a single individual that needs to compete with everybody else for my survival. We're all still very much programmed by that, but we're moving into a world of collaboration, unity, and cooperation, which is what you talk about in the book. And I would say that the new systems, the new business, and the continuation, and I'd go as far as say the evolution of our species cannot and will not continue, will not exist, will become extinct if we don't start collaborating and dropping our ego selves. And when I say ego selves, we don't have time to go into that now. I just mean the aspect of ourselves that just wants everything to be about them. Like I have to have the business. I have to be the head man. I have to be the leader. I have to be the one that it has the best pieced organisation. I have to be the one that's got the best textiles thing, and I'll do whatever I can to keep that up. You know, that mentality has to be binned. And the only way it's binned is if you look deep within yourself to see where it's coming from. So then I'll speak to and answer your question, which is everything up until my shift into serving something grander than myself was fruitless. Yeah. So I still do the everyday things that a lot of people do, and maybe some of the things I might have done several years ago. I get out of bed in the morning, I go and brush my teeth, I might shower, I go to the gym, I walk downtown, I see the world and how it functions. I'm still functioning in this human body, but I'm functioning with a connectedness to all that is. So when your awareness opens to serve something grander than yourself, your tunnel vision, your blinkers move from this to this, move from, oh, I'm alone and I'm got nobody to support me, to actually, if I open my arms and call for help, everybody's there to support me.
Well, so, I love that. I love that thing that you say there, and it's also very powerful. And actually, ironically, you brought us around full circle as we begin to wrap up, because the beautiful thing that happens in that moment is that for anyone who's on a career goal continuum, you're wanting to achieve things, or in a business continuum, sometimes the goal, as pragmatic as the goal bit is, it can tunnel us in like that, isn't it? And everything becomes, we want to be the best. And you beautifully, I love that scenario that you beautifully point out how it can be. But then suddenly when we open up, it means that actually it can be a marriage. You and your customers, instead of there being, I've got to win customers, well, what is it that my customers want? What do my potential customers want? I remember one of the most powerful things, and I think I only learned it many years into business, is, and I talk about this a lot in the book and so on, is that when I began to genuinely talk to people I was meeting and find out genuinely about who they are, what they wanted, was when my business absolutely transformed, because I would suddenly be on the same page as them for the first time, because otherwise I'm just thinking about what I'm wanting, what I'm trying to achieve. But then all of a sudden I'm actually having real conversations with these people who might be able to use me, but I'm actually already being of service to them by listening, connecting with them. Then there's suddenly a dance, and then there's suddenly a conversation, and we explore how we can help each other. Sometimes that way at which I can help them, it might be me passing them on to somebody else. So I think this is one of the other things I want to kind of share as we begin to wrap up. What's one of the first steps? Well, being it, embodying it, being true to yourself, asking you following your passions or something else, recognizing that success may come, it may fall away, and really connecting, stepping out, connecting with people, meeting those people who are like-minded, those like-spirited, sharing with them. I love the stuff, Simon, you were talking about, finding the text, the things that are really nourishing to you. The beautiful thing about the world that we're in nowadays is online. There's so much stuff. This is just one example of one thing that is free and nourishing. If I was listening to this 15 years ago, this would have been wonderful for me. 15, 16, it would have been one. So there's so much stuff out there, and people will kind of help you. Simon, as we head toward the end of this, I just want to ask a question, and then just get a bit of a wrap up from your perspective before I give a little bit of a wrap up. For you personally, then, what would be what's a wish, or what is in your heart that you would like to see? Maybe one thing for yourself and one thing for us all. What is it that you would, from your heart or your beingness, wish for yourself for this year? And maybe then for, in the broader sense, I know you have this sense of a broader global community. What's your wish for us all?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. Okay, so I'll tell you what we do. I wrap it up. You know me, when me and you get started, we could do like 10 of these, but I'll share two things. One thing I'll read to you. Like, one of the things that I advise everybody to do is write their own manifesto and write their own declaration of what they want from any moment. It doesn't matter whether it's New Year's, or I don't celebrate Christmas, so I'm not about New Year's and New Year's this. Today is the beginning of the rest of your life, okay? So from this moment on, this is one of the ones. This isn't mine. This was written by somebody, and this is now I memorized this for the last 15 days. This has become my new little manifesto that I'm going to read to you. Okay, so I'll read this. So I advise, my thing to everybody is that they step into their truth, Find out what that is. What is your truth? Not what somebody else tells you, not what society tells you, not what education tells you. What is your truth? And then stop lying and start loving yourself. Because the minute you start communicating your truth, that is a self-loving action. The minute you say, today, from this day on, I will never tell another lie to myself or anyone else, you transform the equilibrium, the DNA, you know, everything. I mean, you create equilibrium within your cells, but you transmute the cellular membrane that you've been living by. I mean, that's phenomenal. I can't even go into details on that now, but if you just explore what that means, it's just off the chart. And there's one thing that stops us all, and it's fear. And you know what? Fear is, it's a joke. It's a lie. It's your friend. It's not scary. And I'm going to read one thing to you. Fear is just an emotional mind game. We are not running away from scary things. We are just running away from ourselves. Yeah. So I'm going to leave your beautiful viewers with that, and I'm going to say this. This is the little manifesto, and I'll leave you all with this. Thank you, Rashid, for the beautiful invite. Okay. It goes like this. There comes a time in the lives of those destined for greatness when we must have meaning.
Oh, you're just cutting out there. You've just frozen for a moment, my friend, and I'm hoping that I haven't frozen as well.
What about now?
I think you've come back. Yeah, you've come back.
Okay, so listen, it's just one paragraph, right? It goes like this. There comes a time in the lives of those destined for greatness when we must stand before the mirror of meaning and ask, why, when being endowed with the courageous heart of a lion, do we live as mice? We must look squarely into our own tired eyes and examine why we waste so much time sniffing at every distraction, why we cower at the thought of revealing our true selves to the world, why we scurry so quickly from conflict, and why we consent to play so small. We must ask why we participate so humbly in society's frantic race, allowing ourselves into its mazes of mediocrity and settling for scraps of reward when nature has offered us unlimited freedom, power, and abundance.
Beautiful, beautiful. It reminds me of that reminds me of a quote that once came to me: "The world is already yours. Why try and conquer it?" I love this thing that you talk about, just stepping into your fullest self. I want to just say one very quick thing about fear. Also, you know, fear is a friend. I so believe that. I think that fear is a beautiful thing. It's there. It's a warning light. It's a friend. It's saying, actually, are you ready? Have you done the work? Can you actually climb that mountain barefoot? It's a beautiful thing. I think it's like so many things, like disappointment. It's a beautiful thing. Simon, I want to thank you so much for having joined us. And I think there's something kind of serendipitous about the fact that you did, in that, you know, you can set off with a goal. This is what this thing is going to be. But life will then have all sorts of winding roads. It's never going to quite be the straight path that one thinks it's going to be. And the question is, how do you embrace and how do you incorporate? How do you go with the flow? How do you roll with the punches? How do you pick yourself up when you've fallen down into the holes and so on? What's the learning from that? And for me, it's actually about the learning. Often it's actually the disappointments rather than the goals that are actually far more important, far more enriching, that will absolutely help you to find yourself. So there's a couple of things going on, isn't it? There's the mind game of this is what I'm trying to achieve. And then in the reality of this, who are you? What is it that you can actually contribute? How can you actually work from that space of heart? So how can you, be, instead of separate from life, be really genuinely who you are in what you do, in your career, in your business?
Exactly. And Rashid, just going to throw, can I throw one thing in there?
Please.
Like, what you just said, you got one life. To all you beautiful people out there watching this that are just the same, there's no hierarchy here. Me and Rashid, everybody, we're all the same. We have one life here. We are a unique, no other being like us in the whole wide world can communicate like us, speak like us, share like us, create like us, make love like us, right? It's like we have, like, it's, for me, it's, how can we not just embrace this magnificent life? And you can't, what about if we say this, Rashid? You can't do anything wrong.
Beautiful. Well, I think when one's coming from that connected, when one brings that, what I love about what you said is that when it's done from that real connected place of really appreciating oneself fully, as you talk about there, all those unique characteristics, then the need to be battling anybody else dissolves, because
Exactly.
that comes hand in hand with an appreciation.
Exactly.
So then one won't do wrong, and one wouldn't want to wrong anyone else in that process,
You can't.
in that process too.
Rashid, you talk about this in your book. Listen, when you come from the heart, love cannot harm. It's end of story. It's never love that's harming. So when you're communicating and coming from the heart in your business, in your relationships, in every step of your life, you can only serve the whole. And I know we could talk about that for days. I'm going to leave it at that. But you speak about this. Business from the heart is not about competition, and it's about collaboration.
Wow, I love that. Thank you very much. I'm not going to let you go without saying this thing. What is your wish? Otherwise, I'll say what my wish for you with the
Go
work
on.
is that you're doing. But
What's
what is your wish for yourself for the for 2015 on any level in terms of
2015 is I finished the book that I've been writing, that you know that I've been writing and you've given me support and guidance with. That book gets finished and I launched that book, and from the book I'm writing a show. So I'm starting developing a one-man show, and that show is going to be what I want to tour around the world, and basically share this story of the journey out of fear that holds us and cripples us in unconsciousness, and how we can step into communicating from love and living in conscious awareness. And pretty much that's why I'm so passionate about you, your work, Soul Trader, because if there's any shift in business, it has to be from the head into the heart, and that's everything that you live for. So for me, there's big things birthing and seeds are growing, but ultimately I want to just continue to embrace the gift of life, not be attached to outcomes, not be attached that I need to be anything other than I already am, and live in this wholeness. That's how I live always, Rashid. It's not whether it's 2015, 2016, 2017.
Brilliantly put. I want to thank you so much for being our impromptu special guest here. But I'm so grateful, not just a guest, but a very good friend. Thank you very much for being here. And for people who, just before you go, people wanting to find you, what's the best website to find you? And they'll find you, of course, on Soul Trader also. If you look you're Hanuman, right, on Soul Trader.
Yeah, that's mine and yours. Mine and yours, little joke. But I'm Hanuman, the dancing monkey on Soul Trader. And I mean, you don't. The beautiful thing, you don't even need to find me. You just need to find you.
I love that. I'm going to leave you there. I love that. If you need to go and do your thing, do that. I'm just going to spend 2 minutes just wrapping up. Actually, thank you very much, Simon. Thank you very much for joining us. See you soon. Thanks so much for your time. Okay, I'm just going to wrap this up, folks. I'm just going to take 2 minutes to wrap this up, whilst Simon's just wrapping everything up. But I just want to first of all thank Simon. Simon Poole Sutton. If you Google him, you'll find him. Simon on the Sofa, you'll find Simon, or again on Soul Trader, Hanuman, you'll find Simon on here, and you'll find some of his words in the Soul Trader book as well. I just want to do just a very, very, very quick summary, and I think that I have vanished from the screen again. How comes I vanished from the screen again? I'm going to put, anyway, so I'll be very, very quick. Maybe it's telling me, life is telling me that I need to hurry up here. But we've been talking about goals, dreams in 2015, and we've given you a lot of different kind of angles on this. Instead of being, blanket about it, be holistic, be strategic, be realistic. Simon was talking a lot about embodying it. What is that actually going to involve? Genuinely, are you prepared to go that? And manifesting that, appreciating who it is that you already are in that particular process. And this thing about cooperation, and I'd say, who are the people that can help you? Who is that can help you? Who is it one person just have that kind of conversation and continue to nourish yourself with positive stuff and continue to go from the heart? And on that level also, I just want to say there's lots of tools, free tools and resources here on soultrader.biz, the podcasts. Oh, one final thing just to say before we do close. If you're new, if you're just listening to this website, to this talk online or anything else, if you're wanting some tools and resources, visit www.soul-trader.biz. There's a free newsletter, there's a free membership. There's if you're starting a business, there's a series of 12 podcasts on how to start up your business. There's all sorts of other free tools, including my 2-page business plan template from the book. you'll find the webinars. These webinars are going to be held here. Bookmark this page. Once every month there'll be a webinar. Very often that there'll be a guest. I think that next month we're due to be looking at building your brand, your web presence, and so on. So I'll be advertising that date, or just keep your eye on the website. I just want to thank you so much for your time. Hope you found this very useful. If you've got a topic that you would like a future webinar on, go to the Soul Trader. You'll see the Facebook page. Post it there. If you're already a member, or once you're a free member, just post that in one of the forums and tell me a webinar topic that you want. I want to thank those of you who are already members, everybody who's already joined. I'm so grateful that you're already here. Thank you so much. I want to wish you all the best in 2015, and looking forward to your successes and your fulfillment and finding self, and continuing to serve for your business. Thank you very much. See you next month. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.